So, here's the setup. I, 38M, noticed the gray sedan 3 weeks ago. Same car, different spots. Always with some guy inside pretending to read a newspaper like it was the 1950s. Classic PI move. Except he wasn't fooling anyone, least of all me. My wife, Diane, 36F, had been acting weird for months. Sneaky weird. Checking my phone when she thought I was asleep. Asking strangely specific questions about my schedule. Suddenly interested in my boring work conferences. The thing is, I don't have some sexy secret job. I run a nonprofit. My whole life is community outreach, fundraising, and making sure old ladies can cross the street without breaking a hip. My evenings? Charity events. My weekends? Volunteer drives. My lunch breaks? Coffee shop donor meetings. My wife always called it boring do-gooder stuff and tuned out anytime I mentioned it. So when I spotted the tail, I knew exactly what was happening. Diane had hired someone to follow me. And instead of confronting her, I decided to let her waste her money. If she thought I was hiding something, then fine, let the PI see all the thrilling secrets of my life. Day 1. Told Diane I had a client dinner. Reality? I drove straight to the public library's literacy program where I volunteer teaching English to immigrants. I spent 3 hours helping Ramon prep for his citizenship test. The PI probably got some cinematic shots of me explaining the 3 branches of government like I was auditioning for Schoolhouse Rock 2, even nerdier. Day 2. Told her I was meeting Peterson from accounting. That's true if you count my buddy Pete, divorced guy who joins me every Thursday at the animal shelter to walk dogs. The PI got 4 solid hours of me picking up steaming piles of dog poop and teaching a pit bull named Princess how to shake hands. Spoiler, she still can't. Day 3. Working late at the office. Translation, I drove to the children's hospital and read picture books in the cancer ward. I even parked in a spot where the PI would have a crystal clear view of me waddling in with an armload of Where the Wild Things Are and The Very Hungry Caterpillar. Drove to the children's hospital and read picture books in the cancer ward. I even parked in a spot where the PI would have a crystal clear view of me waddling in with an armload of Where the Wild Things Are and The Very Hungry Caterpillar. And it just kept going. For 3 solid weeks, this poor guy followed me everywhere. Senior Center bingo night, he probably nodded off in his car. Food bank inventory, lots of lifting canned beans. Youth mentorship program, I teach kids basic coding. Community garden, weeding tomatoes, not exactly scandalous. Blood donation center, I'm O negative, so they love me. The best part? I wasn't even altering my routine. This is literally my life. Diane just never cared enough to notice. Meanwhile, at home, Diane was getting more and more frustrated. How was your evening? She'd probe. I'd answer truthfully, exhausting. Spent 3 hours bent over, teaching kindergartners finger painting at the community center. You wouldn't believe how much paint a 5-year-old can get on their face. Her eyes would narrow, like she was waiting for me to slip up. But the PI? The PI was just documenting every wholesome, corny detail. Last Tuesday, it all blew up. I came home to find Diane in the living room with printed photos spread across the coffee table. Her face was purple with rage. $8,000, she screamed. I paid $8,000 for this. The photos were hilarious. Me hugging Mrs. Chun, 84, queen of the senior center, while teaching her how to use email. Me on my knees tying 6-year-old Jennifer's shoes at the youth center. Me having an intimate lunch with Alexandra, the 70-year-old director of the food bank. Me leaving a woman's apartment at midnight, because I had just dropped off groceries to my disabled neighbor. You want to explain this? Diane demanded. Explain what? My volunteer schedule? Don't play dumb. I know you're cheating. With who? Mrs. Chun? She's older than my grandmother. There's someone. These are just your cover. At that point, I sat down calmly. Diane, you paid someone to follow me for 3 weeks. What did they find? She flipped through the photos frantically, desperate to find something incriminating. This has to be fake. No one spends this much time helping people. I do. Have been for years. You'd know that if you ever asked. The PI said you're definitely hiding something. No one's this good. Reader, I laughed. Out loud. She paid $8,000 because she couldn't believe I'm a decent person. Diane doubled down. She insisted the PI was incompetent, that I was running some long con. She demanded access to my phone, email, laptop, everything. Fine. I handed it all over. What did she find? 47 emails about an upcoming charity auction. A group chat called Weekend Warriors, the volunteer crew. Hundreds of photos of me with kids, dogs, and senior citizens. Browser history full of grant applications and donation sites. She spent hours combing through my stuff. Then she started cold calling people in my contacts. Hello, is this Alexandra? Yes. Who's this? I'm calling about my husband. Oh, you must be Diane. He talks about you all the time. Is this about the gala? We'd love for you to attend. Every single call ended the same way, everyone knew who she was. Everyone mentioned how I bragged about her. Everyone invited her to events she'd never bothered to ask about. The kicker? When she called Pete. Yo, is this Diane? Finally. Your husband never shuts up about you. Honestly, it's annoying. We get it. You make amazing lasagna. She hung up and stared at me. You talk about my lasagna? Every Thursday. Pete's divorced. He lives on frozen dinners. The realization was sinking in, but instead of apologizing, she got angry. This is your fault. You're too secretive. Secretive? I literally tell you where I'm going every time. You just don't listen. You could have been more specific. More specific than I'm reading at the children's hospital? What did you think that meant? She stormed off to call her sister, Gladys. I overheard, he made me look stupid. He could have just told me he was some kind of saint. I did. Every single day. The bill arrived. Itemized. And oh, it was glorious. Surveillance, $5,000. Mileage, $800. Hazard pay for sitting through a 4-hour literacy seminar, $200. Weekend rates, $1,200. Final report/photos, $800. But the best part? The PI's notes. Subject appears to be pathologically altruistic. Spent 11 hours on Saturday participating in various charitable activities. No suspicious behavior observed, unless teaching algebra to underprivileged youth counts. Recommend psychological evaluation for possible hero complex. I nearly framed it. Diane? She was furious. Not at herself. At me. At the PI. At the nonprofit sector in general. This is probably tax fraud, she announced. Tax fraud? Diane, I run a nonprofit. I make $51,000 a year. You make twice that. Then how do you afford things? What things? I drive a 2010 Honda. My newest shirt is from 2019. I spend nothing because I'm always volunteering. She even tried to get a refund from the PI agency. They laughed at her. The manager literally said, "Ma'am, we followed your husband for 3 weeks. He's either the world's most boring cheater or a genuinely good person. Either way, you got what you paid for." She disputed the charge with her credit card. Claim denied. So what does she do? Marches into my office and announces to my coworkers that I'd manipulated her into wasting money. Joyce, my colleague, blinked. You mean, the charity auction? No. The private investigator. Dead silence. Joyce, you hired a PI to follow Jeremy, the guy who cried watching Toy Story 3? My boss, Father Timothy. Yes, an actual priest, came out of his office. Diane, perhaps we should talk privately. She ranted to a priest for 20 minutes about how I deceive her by being exactly who I say I am. Father Tim later told me, Jeremy, in 30 years of counseling, this is a new one. Gladys, sister-in-law, called me directly. You need to apologize. For what? For humiliating her. I didn't hire a PI to follow myself. You could have just confronted her instead of letting her spend money. Learn what? That trust isn't about surveillance, it's about actually knowing your partner? Click. She called back, $8,000 is a lot of money. Yes. That's 2 months of our after-school program budget. You're being petty. I'm being honest. Click. Then Diane's mom, Eunice, called. She actually volunteers at the same food bank as me. Jeremy, dear, did you really not tell her about the volunteering? I told her every time. She just wasn't listening. Long pause. That sounds like Diane. When she was little, she once swore her teacher was grading her unfairly. We checked, she just wasn't studying. She's always believed what she wants. Great. A pattern of behavior, Diane posted. When you find out your husband has been living a secret life for years. Devastated. Please respect my privacy. Huge flood of comments. Pete, secret life? You mean the volunteering? Bro hasn't shut up about teaching ESL for like 5 years. Joyce, Diane, are you okay? Jeremy's literally at his desk organizing the toy drive. Father Tim, wild. Secret life seems like a strong term for charitable work. Neighbor Mrs. Rodriguez, secret? He's carried my groceries every week for 2 years since my hip surgery. Told me his wife was too busy to help. You're the busy wife, right? Post deleted within an hour. Screenshots circulated anyway. She came home furious. You turned everyone against me. I was teaching computer basics at the senior center. Of course you were. It's Tuesday. Yes. I always teach on Tuesdays. It's on the fridge. She stomped over, looked at the fridge, and froze. There it was. My laminated, color-coded volunteer schedule. Been there since we moved in. This has been here the whole time? Yes. I never. Nope. Long silence. Then, well, you should have made it bigger. We're separated now. Not divorced yet, but she's living with Gladys, who's reportedly sick of hearing about St. Jeremy. The bathroom renovation money? Gone. She's washing her hair in Gladys's sink because she can't afford to fix ours. The PI actually called me. Look man, I've been doing this for 20 years. You're the first case where the suspicious behavior was just being a good person. I even donated $500 to your nonprofit. Tax deductible, right? Yep. Thanks. He chuckled. Also, your wife's nuts. Who gets mad about charity work? Someone who never listened. The real kicker, Diane later asked if I could write off the PI bill as a charitable expense since it was basically documenting volunteer work. I laughed so hard I had to sit down. That's not how taxes work, Diane. Well, can't you at least cover half? It's partly your fault. Because I read to kids with cancer for fun? Click. Father Tim offered couples counseling. Free, of course. She refused. Said he was biased. My favorite part of the aftermath? The kids at the hospital made me a card. Thank you, Mr. Jeremy, for reading to us. Sorry your wife is mean. Savage. Now my volunteer crew has a running joke. Every time I do something helpful, someone yells, Jeremy's being suspicious again. Last week, when I carried donation boxes, 6 people chorused, so suspicious. Mrs. Chun baked me cookies with a note, for the nice young man whose wife thinks helping old ladies is cheating. Meanwhile, Diane's still spinning conspiracy theories. Gladys is reportedly exhausted. The divorce papers are being drawn up. My lawyer, who also volunteers at legal aid, said it's the weirdest case he's seen. She's actually arguing that your character is too good, therefore suspicious. Do I regret not confronting her sooner? Nah. She needed to learn, trust isn't about surveillance. It's about knowing your partner. She spent $8,000 to discover she never really knew me at all. That money could have bought 500 books for the hospital library. Instead, it bought blurry photos of me buying books for the hospital library. Poetic, really. And if Diane still hates scrolling Reddit, congrats, you renovated our marriage into a divorce. Hope those photos of me tying children's shoelaces were worth it. P.S. The PI's final report is framed in Father Tim's office. He thinks it's hilarious. P.P.S. Pete adopted Princess the pit bull. She still can't shake hands, but she does judge people who waste money on PIs. Good dog. That's the whole saga.